Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Drawing Down the Stars. I'm Snappy. Thank you for joining me for our live tarot reading today, September 20th, 2024. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. Let's give a shout out to everyone in our chat. Excuse me, sorry. Good to see you, Lisa. Gandhi, good to see you. Hollerhaint, much love. Taz, much love. Good to see you, Christy. Nikosmas, much love. Kari, much love. Foundations, much love. Martin, yeah, Martin, shout out to our dear pal Neil. Everyone, go watch the interview on Danny Jones. I haven't finished it all yet, but it's great so far. Foundation, much love. Good to see you. Pa, good to see you. All right. Mother Rhea, much love. Geo, much love. Daphne, wonderful to see you. Thank you all for joining me. All right. Let's start off by talking a bit about our astrology. So we have now moved, our moon has moved into Taurus, right? Taurus is that intense, grounded energy, very bodily driven energy, sensual energy, right? When it is in that moon, you're going to feel this connection really to that deepest sense of self. And there's this desire to connect to others, to be in that physical touch. And there's also going to be a stubbornness, a groundedness in our emotions. On one hand, it's a strength, right? We are going to be able to know ourselves and to be true to ourself and stand for ourselves. But it also can lead to that stubbornness. And when we're connected to that Virgo energy, which is such striving, perfecting energy, it can become quite intense. But this is also a beautiful moment in terms of building, in terms of getting things done, and being grounded in that earth, being connected to your family, having the strength to really do what is necessary, right? To take responsibility. It's a beautiful moment for that, right? And let's also talk a little bit about the title of today's reading. When I was meditating this morning and I was drawing my cards, I drew the Princess of Discs. And when I was meditating and thinking on her, the message that I was getting was just this message of being in that Artemis energy, right? Of that young, wild woman who can handle and move through the changes, who is in that constant change, who's never settled, who picks up and goes, who has no possessions and makes what she needs, does for herself, right? That really powerful energy of being able to move and flow with the changes and not be bound to anything and to just be capable. That's what we're aiming for, right? That's the energy of the day, that true, capable, grounded energy that can adapt and flow, right? You don't need things, and to be bound to things is going to cause suffering, right? And if you don't have the skill to protect yourself, it will lead to suffering. It's an intense lesson, but it's a true lesson. And that is that lesson that Artemis brings. There's a lot of beauty here, though, too. I also wanted to read for you an incredible poem. It's called Wood Myths by Madison Julius Kawine. Sylvan, they say, and nymph are gone, and yet I saw the two last night, when overhead the moon sailed white, and through the mists her light made wan. Each bush and tree doffed its disguise, and stood revealed to mortal eyes, the hallowed rimmed with rocks and trees. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. All right. We will restart that. Okay. Wood myths. Sylvan, they say, and nymph are gone, and yet I saw the two last night, when overhead the moon sailed white, and through the mists her light made wan. Each bush and tree doffed its disguise, and stood revealed to mortal eyes, the hollow rimmed with rocks and trees, and massed with ferns and matted vines, seemed an arena mid the pines, a theater of mysteries where Oread and Satyr met, and all the myths that men forget. The rain and frost had carved the rocks with faces that were wild and strange, which Protean fancy seemed to change each moment in the granite blocks that seemed slow dreaming into form, the gods grotesque of wind and storm. Then suddenly Diana stood, slim as a shaft of moonlight there, immortalizing earth and air with perfect beauty. Through the wood her maidens went as brightness goes athwart a cloud at evening's close. And then I saw a fawn push through the thorny berry at his lip, twinkled a pipe that seemed to drip dim sounds of crickets and of dew, things that in strange reality seemed born of his frail melody. And then I saw the naiad rise from out her rock, a form of spar, in which her heart shone like a star. Like the moon, her hair and eyes, she smiled, and at each smile it seemed some wild flower into being gleamed. And then the dryad from her beach came, silver white as its bark, and slender through the dreaming dark I saw her go. A whispering speech was hers, from whose soft murmured words is made the language of the birds. Then satyrs and the centaurs passed, then old Pan himself, and there flying before him, all her hair about her like a mist, the last wild nymph I saw. And as she went, the woods as with a wind were bent, and in the hush, like some slow rose that knows not yet that it is born, a premonition of the morn bloomed, and from out its far repose borne over ocean, through the wood, a sighing swept the solitude. Then nothing more. But I had seen that Pan still lives in all his train. Whatever men say, they remain. The unseen forces, they that mean nature, its awe and majesty, that symbolize and vitalize mythology. There you go. Wasn't that beautiful? Wasn't that beautiful? The forever underrated Madison Kawine. All right. We're now going to go to our Ganapati oracle. So, Ganesha Ganapati is that Lord of beginnings, guardian of the threshold, the divine child, master of spirits, the Ganas. We ask, inspire us this evening and send us a message and ensure that our words are heard by those who need to hear. And I'm getting launched. We're getting a couple here. Wow. We have three messages from Ganapati this evening. And our first, acceptance. Acceptance. Wow. Acceptance. And what do we have for the image of the acceptance is quite interesting. We have Ganesh showing his physical form, right? Even he has to learn to accept the limitations of form, right? And if we remember the story of Ganapati, he wasn't always elephant-headed. That head is a result of violence done to him by Shiva, right? In the duty of protecting and guarding the threshold to his mother's bath, Shiva, when refused entry, decapitated Ganesha. And then when Parvati rebuked him, took an elephant's head and stuck it on. But Ganesha was made greater by this. He was blessed by this. He accepted this. New fate, new transformation, greater growth and expansion, right? He accepts his form, even if it is confusing and strange, right? And we must learn to accept ourselves. You know, have the strength to change what we can't change, and have the strength to, have the strength to change what we can change, and the strength to accept what we can't. It's that reason again. All right. Our second message from Lord Ganapati: the capacity to love. The capacity to love. This is interesting because the elephant is known as having such incredible depth of emotion in forming lifelong partnerships and bonds. Literally going and dying when their partners die, right? And Ganapati is reminding us that we all have that depth of capacity within us. And that to love, we must expand this capacity. And we must be open and receptive. Love is a two-race street, right? If we want to receive love, we must be willing to give love. And there's that duality. And we must learn to expand our capacity to accept love. Because to embrace love means to be in that state of forgiveness and transformation, right? To be reflected upon by the other, to learn to reflect upon their perspectives, to engage in harmonious action, which we will fall short. You know, to be in love is to also struggle. And you have to have that capacity, that ability, that willingness to go through that struggle. All right. Let us continue. We now see fulfillment, the final message from Ganapati. Fulfillment. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful energy. And it's that 6, the sun, the middle path, the solar ray. And what is Ganapati doing? Studying, engaging in the learning of wisdom, shining a light and expanding their perspective. Right? Receiving fulfillment through learning and understanding. And it's that beautiful, like engaging with learning with that childlike energy as well. We see Ganapati as that child, right? Being helped by his companion. Beautiful. Those are the messages, right? Accept, love, and fulfillment. Acceptance, love, and fulfillment. Beautiful. Wow. Lots to say from Ganapati today. All right. We're now going to start with our sortes proper. And we are going to begin with Lewis Carroll. So for those of you unaware, the sortes is a form of bibliomancy. That is divination through literature, and it comes to us from the Greco-Roman tradition. And we invoke the goddesses of inspiration, the divine muses, and we ask them to send us a message through the text and inspire us. So muses, what is the message from Lewis Carroll? Inspire us this evening. Is it the glow of conscious pride, of pure ambition gratified, that seeks to read in other eye something of its own ecstasy? Oh, wow. What a profound statement. Is it the glow of conscious pride, of pure ambition gratified, that seeks to read in other eye something of its own ecstasy? When you can see that love reflected in the eyes of another and you can receive joy through another's joy, that is true growth in beauty, true love, right? That's beautiful. Wow. And again, I'm reminded of Parvati and Shiva, Parvati's mirror, in which Shiva sees himself reflected, right? So beautiful. Okay, let us continue. We're going to go to Lord Byron. All right. Muses, what is the message from Lord Byron? Inspire us this evening. Mountains have fallen, leaving a gap in the clouds, and with the shock rocking their alpine brethren, filling up the ripe green valleys with destruction splinters, damming the rivers with a sudden dash, which crushed the waters into mist and made their fountains find another channel. Thus in its old age did Mount Rosenberg, which stood I not beneath it. We've read this one before, but it is so intense and it's coming up again. It's so beautiful. Mountains have fallen, leaving a gap in the clouds, and with the shock, rocking their alpine brethren, filling up the ripe green valleys with destruction splinters, damming the rivers with the sudden dash which crushed the waters into mist, and made their fountains find another channel. Thus, in its old age did Mount Rosenberg. Why stood I not beneath it? Why stood I not beneath it? Even the mountains fall in their old age. They topple in growth. They topple in collapse. And the question is, why stood I not beneath it? Because you're not meant to stand. You can be in the presence of the mountain. You can climb the mountain, experience the mountain, but you must move beyond the mountain and embrace change and recognize that to stay with that mountain is eventually to crumble like it. Eventually that mountain turns into hills, and then those hills turn into nothing. When I was in India, I had the opportunity to go to Vrindavan. And there's this really famous story of Krishna where I can't remember the exact story, but there were these two special hills that people run between. And when I got there, they're barely hills anymore because of all the pilgrims over the decades, over the centuries. The people still know, and they're still marked and understood and respected, but the landscape has changed and it's no longer what once was, right? It's just interesting. Let us continue. All right, we're going to go to Euripides, 10th plays. Muses, got my hand. What is the message from Euripides? Inspire us this moment. But Artemis stole me away and gave the Achaeans a deer in my place, and conducted me through the bright ether to this land of the Taurians, where she gave me a home. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Oh, wow. But Artemis stole me away and gave the Achaeans a deer in my place, and conducted me through the bright ether to this land of the Taurians, where she gave me a home. This is Iphigenia, right? And in the story, Iphigenia at Taurus, we get the backstory to why Agamemnon kills or is made to kill Iphigenia. Well, after the fall of Troy and the Greeks have won the war and they're waiting to go back home, Agamemnon hunts and slays a deer. And this offends Artemis, and she demands that Agamemnon sacrifice Iphigenia. And so he does, but in that last moment, she's transported, and in its place a deer is left. And instead, Iphigenia is taken to the land of the Taurians, the Taurus Cheronese, modern day Crimea, where the Amazons live. And she becomes the head priestess of an Amazonian temple. Really interesting energy. But the point here to recognize is that Artemis intervened and rescued her from that sacrifice, transformed her into a higher priestess. And we see this story happen again and again, where these virgins who are sacrificed or who die through their self-sacrifice in order to save become goddesses or powers made unto themselves, or the goddesses intervene to save them, right? We even have a story with Helen, right? There's a palinode by Stesichorus that tells us that Helen never actually was abducted and taken to Troy. Instead, Artemis intervened and she was brought to Egypt, right? Or Hecate, Artemis or Hecate, but still. Really, really interesting. And so much magic at play. Even Medea, right? In her moment of desperation, the goddess sends the chariot and she escapes, right? Rather than face destruction. There's this power here to come and intervene that prevents a death. It's also interesting because it's that sacrificial energy, right? Rather than the sacrifice, there's an intervention and a saving. The story is eerily familiar, right, with a lot of later stories, such as Christ Jesus, or, what's his name? Abraham. Similar ideas at play. All right, let's continue. We're going to go. Rebele, Pantagruel, Gargantua, and Pantagruel. All right, muses. What is the message from Rebele? Inspire us. Most shining toppers, and you most be carbunkled sufferers from the pox. I have perceived, received, hearkened unto, and believed the ambassador dispatched towards my fatherhood by your lordships, and he seemed to me to be a very good and fluent orator. I can reduce the substance of his statement to 3 words of such great importance among the ancient Romans. The praetor replied with them to all petitions brought before judgment. With those 3 words, he decided all controversies, all plaints, lawsuits, and disputes. Any days on which the praetor did not pronounce those words were declared inauspicious and legally improper, and any days on which he did so, legally proper and auspicious. You give, you say, and you adjudicate. You give, you say, you adjudicate. You're seeing that throne magic on full display. That power of the emperor, the one who decides. Interesting. All right. We are now going to go to Don Juan in Hell. Okay. Muse, what is the message from Bernard Shaw and Don Juan in Hell? Okay. And all your philosophizing has been nothing but a mask for proselytizing. And all your philosophizing has been nothing but a mask for proselytizing. Oof. This reminds me of something that the good doctor might say about many of the Greek philosophers. All right, let us continue. Goethe, Faust. All right, muses, guide my hand. What is the message from Faust? Inspire us. The lure of gold has power to hold the hearts of all. Alas for all us poor. True words. True words. The lure of gold has power to hold the hearts of all. For alas, for all us poor, we have to learn to resist that greed, right? But it also has the power to hold. It's an interesting paradox. Oof. All right, let us continue. We're going to go to Edgar Allan Poe. Muses, what is the message from Poe? Inspire us this evening. Another of these magicians, by means of a fluid that no one ever saw yet, could make the corpses of his friends brandish their arms, kick out their legs, fight, or even get up and dance at his will. You know, we hear all kinds of stories like this about making the corpses dance or talk or speak. It makes me think of Apuleius. And Apuleius in the Golden Ass, there's a really interesting story where he talks about a priest of Isis who resurrects a dead man and commands them to speak of what happened to them. Interesting. All right. The Book of Thoth. Muses, guide my hand. What is the message from Crowley in the Book of Thoth? Inspire us this evening. They are ambitious, but only in useful directions. They possess immense funds of affection, kindness, and greatness of heart. They are not intellectual and not particularly intelligent, but instinct and intuition are more than adequate for their needs. These people are quiet, hardworking, practical, sensible, domesticated, often in a reticent and unassuming fashion, lustful, and even debaucherous. They are inclined to the abuse of alcohol and drugs. It is as if they could only realize their essential happiness by escaping themselves. And Crowley is speaking of ill-dignified Queen of Discs. The ill-dignified Queen of Discs. Interesting. Only can realize one's essential happiness by getting outside of oneself. Therein lies the issue, right? You have to be connected to the body. You have to be connected to the self. You can leave the body for sure, you know, but if you're always in that escapist mode, you can never be in true harmony. You just can't. And that is why it is ill dignified, right? All right. Beautiful. Let us continue. The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. Muses, what is the message from Eco? Inspire us this evening. Don't be too harsh with those monks of far-off Hibernia. Perhaps if this abbey exists and if we still speak of the Holy Roman Empire, we owe it to them. This is interesting. They're speaking of foundations and temples of muses, right? And where the knowledge persists and survives. After the collapse of the Roman Empire and the degradation that followed, much of the science and the knowledge was kept in the temples by the priests. You know, paradoxically, that Christianity is both the great savior and the great destroyer of the ancient culture. You know, it really depends on which group, when and where, right? It's a very complicated thing, but it's interesting too. Often these groups that save the knowledge, that preserve the texts, right? These monks that remove themselves from the world are the ones that maintained that transmission, that information. All right. Let us continue. Underworld. All right. Underworld. Muses, what is the message from the Sepulture Society in Underworld? Inspire us. Pluto can also be called upon for protection, but not normally against the living. His aid is primarily secured against spiritual threats. People who are involved in trades related to death may find much fulfillment in his service, as well as those who work in professions below ground, such as archaeology, oil drilling, and mining. The interesting thing of Pluto is to recognize that Pluto is Dionysus, right? These are twin energies, twin energies in differing forms. Pluto is Dionysus the Reaper, right? The Lord of the underworld, the great abductor, dark, dark energy, and receiving his energy, telling us to seek his protection. That's intense. Very intense, because normally when we see Pluto, when they are called upon, is in the rites of Eleusis or during the necromancy, when one digs the trench and offers the blood of the black ram in order to call the dead. But you also call Hecate at that time as well. Often actually the Hades Pluto is a minor figure. And it is rather Persephone that becomes far, far, far more important. She is the queen of the underworld. Interesting. Let us continue. We are now going to go to Entering the Desert by Craig Williams. All right. Muses, what is the message from Craig Williams? Inspire us. This marketing of sacred images can also be a manifestation of a deep fear of the primordial reality of the image, whereby the mirage of the culture or the individual is threatened by the image, and the commercialization is used as a defense mechanism to reinforce the status quo of the ego, reinforcing the mirage. Absolutely. Saturation of divine images and reduction, right? It's all about reducing and controlling. The power in magic is all about the image. It's all about the eidolon, the construction and engagement with the eidolon through the daimon, right? This is beyond profound. And when that image is reduced and commercialized and cheapened, mass produced, it is no longer threatening. It's no longer powerful. It's no longer terrifying. Right? Or it's no longer loving. It's no longer sacred and awe-inspiring. It's just casually seen, right? It's reduced and parodied. Interesting. All right. Let's continue. We're going to go to the Psychic Bible. All right. Muses, what is the message from Genesis Peorage and the Temple of Psychic Youth? Inspire us. We are all uninhabited. Inside all of us is nothing. This manipulation comes from the initial incursion of ultra-terrestrial influences into the human life wave, attracted to the individual embryo or sperm as an effective means of incarnating genetic mutations. Now we're getting into some intensity. We are all uninhabited. Inside of all of us is nothing. This is a true statement. And it is not as scary as you think. Because what is that nothing? That nothing is that great womb of creation of which possibility is born. And it is about recognizing that all we are truly is that perceptor. We are the one who perceives. We are a divine witness. We can experience creation. But we are limited in that experience. We cannot even stand it. It is beyond us. But that is all we truly are. Everything else is something greater than you. It is a manifestation of the body. It is a manifestation outside of you. You are just that perception. And if you get into the depths of meditation, you can enter into that state where everything goes away and it's just that pure receiving, pure feeling. All right, let's continue. Dr. Faustus. All right, uses. What is the message from Dr. Faustus? Inspire us. And now, my Faustus, that thou may perceive what Rome containeth to delight thee with, know that this city stands upon 7 hills, that underprop the groundwork of the same. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I'm talking about perception, and we get a message about perception. Now, my Faustus, that thou may perceive what Rome containeth to delight thee with, know that this city stands upon 7 hills. 7 hills, right? The 7 rays of the sun. The Rome is the eternal city, right? It's representative of the totality of community. That underprop the groundwork of the same. They telling you here that there is a reflection. There are 7 hills above and 7 hills below. This is a reference to the universe. Perceive the universe, the world. All the world is that Rome. And what it has to offer you. Wow. Interesting. Look at the natural world around you and see all it has to offer in its beauty and its variety. Okay. We are now going to go to the poems of W.B. Yeats. Okay. Muses, what is the message from Yeats? Inspire us this evening. 3 that are watching my time to run, the worm, the devil, and my son. To see a loop around their neck, it's that would make my heart to leap. Oh my gosh. And the cycles are changing, and there's people at our door. And who's at our door? The 3 forces, the worm, the devil, and my son. To see the loop around their neck is that would make my heart to leap. What a greedy, horrible thing to say. You know, that worm, the worm is the great recycler that allows nature to persist, that turns the filth into food. Beautiful. The devil is that great light, the one who illumes, who teaches us, who shows us the way, who helps us to grow and to expand. And your son is the next generation. You're that threatened. You can't love your son. You would rather see a loop around their neck. And this is the view of the tyrant. Resist death. Resist the light. Resist the next generation. And you must recognize this. This is the key with these tyrannical forces. When people tell you these things, be aware. Be aware. When they want to control what you can perceive and see and understand, they're anti-knowledge and it's tyrannical. When they resist death and they're constantly looking for a life after or a way to extend their life for immortality, reasoning, it is a destruction. When they vilify the next generation and want to control and dictate for them how they live, tyranny. 3 signs of the tyrant. Wow. Hermann Hesse, Narcissus and Goldman. All right. Muses, guide my hand. What is the message from Narcissus and Goldman? Inspire us. He loitered around the fountain at the fish market and watched the fish vendors and their burly wives praise their wares, Watch them pull the cool silvery fish out of the barrels and offer them for sale. Saw the fish open their mouths in pain, their golden eyes rigid with fear as they quietly gave to death or resisted with furious desperation. Wow. Witness the intensity of life and the brutality of life. To save these fish is to deprive those women, right? For those women to live is to destroy those fish. And to sell them is to put them on display and to have them be exposed and slowly die in torture. Lots to think on in this image. All right. Okay, we're going to go to Antonin Artaud. Muses, what is the message from Artaud? Inspire us this evening. And I don't know if it isn't in a dream that I heard the end of his phrase. And one is so good, by God, one pays too much for fame. And Artaud was told in a dream, to resist fame. You don't know what you ask for. And when one is good, so good, by God, one pays too much for fame. Remember, Helen, what the cost of beauty is, right? And truly, the truly beautiful out there will understand, and I don't mean that in a negative way. And probably most of us are not there. But there's a few people who live that reality, who are only seen as objects in the eyes of others, something to possess. Some people purposely turn themselves into objects for the purpose of fame. And that's what it is to sell your soul, right? People get confused. They say, oh, they're selling your soul to the devil. No. You're selling your soul for fame. The devil is giving you fame and he's showing you the way. You sell yourself. You have to sell your image. You turn yourself into that image of beauty. But by doing that, you've invoked that image magic. You've turned yourself into that idol, right? And what did they do to the idols? They set them ablaze. They send them to the stars. The beauty cannot exist on earth. It is too powerful and pure. It causes that reaction every time. Something to think on. All right. Lorca, 3 tragedies. Muses, what is the message from Federico Garcia Lorca? Inspire us. Yes, and why not? The smell of what's ours. Just as I like the smell of the red mud this river carries in the winter. The smell of what's ours. Just as I like the smell of the red mud this river carries in the winter. There's so much to smell and understanding of smell and recognizing it, What she's referring to in this passage, if I look above, she's asked about the smell of the sheep. And she says, well, I like the sheep smell because it's that nostalgia, right? It reminds her of her past and her place and what is hers. It's beautiful. Interesting. Okay. We are now going to go for our last sortes, Ore by Gabriel Macari. All right. Muses, what is the message from Gabriel Macari? Okay. Forget the impulse of the ear. Forget that it only hears what it wants to hear. Of the divine melodies on the winds of high, the chirping of birds and gentle sighing of earths below, which the ear oft dismisses and forgets. You have to learn to shut up so that you can hear the winds on high, the chirping of birds, and the gentle sighing of the earth. That's the message. All right, let's get to our tarot proper. Okay. But before I do, please give me a like and a subscribe. It really does make a big difference and boosts everything in the algorithm. And if you're at all interested in a private reading, you can reach out to me, snappydts@gmail.com, or find me on the Myth and Lore Discord, Snappy or Lady Snappy. And we are going to invoke Saturn Kronos. And we are going to ask them to dissect our life, to cut it up and put it on the plate, to show us our present, and ask, how do we overcome the conflicts? How do we rise above and move in flow? And how do we learn to manifest our true will? And what is the general message for the community? And as always, the center card is our most important card. And today's center is the Wheel of Fortune, Fortuna. Fortuna. Beautiful, profound energy, fortune. Right? The Wheel of Fate, learning to move and to adapt. And does it not connect entirely with what I was saying, with that energy of Artemis, that power to be able to move and flow with the waters, to not be bound to place, just as we read in the Sortes with the mountains, to not stand until the mountain collapses upon you, but to be able to move and to adapt and to flow, to be able and capable. Right? Beautiful. Wow. To be able and capable. Prudent energy. Prudent energy. Do you have the strength and discipline to tend to the garden, to ensure that your tower is growing as it should, that it is weeded and protected, that the fruit is tended to? Right? Prudence is necessary. We must all protect and do the work that's necessary to ensure the growth. The plants must be watered. The ground must be weeded, right? Lest you succumb to fortune. Wow. Beautiful energy. The Prince of Cups. The Prince of Cups is that one who pursues that loving connection, who pursues that mystical connection of that cup, of that feminine, right? This is Addis energy. This is that energy of recognizing that one is bound down in the mud. And through that power of the beast and through that taking of the cup, they're able to ascend and through the power of imitation transform themselves and become that lust card, that Lady Babylon. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Let's continue. Yeah, as the wheel of fortunes turn, we must evolve. We must move beyond that prince, right? This is beautiful energy, but it is also energy that is showing up immature. The prince is that one who struggles. He tries to overcome the limitations and to seek that pure emotional loving connection. But fundamentally, he is the one who continues to fall into the mud, to be bound by negativity and by attachment. What we see here is that in the future, we take responsibility. Connected to that fortune, we must rise. We saw this energy the other day as well. The Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords is the one who pursues the mystical pursuit, right? Similar to the water, but from a different direction, a high-minded academic direction, an air direction, trying to understand that magic, that Hermes and Hecate energy, right? And this is about pursuing after knowledge. We also saw that reflected in the image of Ganesha. At the beginning, Ganesha was reading in order to understand and to grow, to achieve fulfillment. We are, as the knight, pursuing fulfillment. We are adapting and growing beyond and becoming this one who pursues that true wisdom and has the strength to do it. Also, the knight, right, of swords is the one who's willing to defend their perspective, to defend the knowledge that they've gained, and to fight for the knowledge that they need, right? It's really intense energy. But that's what's needed in this moment. Yeah. We're seeing very similar energy to what we saw the other day. Now we have the Fool. We need to embrace this energy of that outgoing pursuer of wisdom, that strong, dedicated, willful knight, that defender of truth. And we need to take the leap, embody that Dionysus energy, right? Because what it is it's on one hand, we're pursuing the wisdom, but combined with the Dionysus, it's with love. Makes me think of Crowley, love under will, you know? First and foremost is that academic knight, but connected to him is that passion, that willingness to throw yourself into generation, the audacity to try, to take the risk, to chase after love, right? So this is that knight who's willing to take a risk, who's willing to throw himself to the depths. Wow. Usually the knight is pretty refined and reasonable. So this is intense energy. Yeah. It's about breaking cycles. We have the oppression energy, right? Oppression energy. What is Addis bound to? Addis is bound to their own limitations. They see themselves bound to. They see themselves bound in the mud. They see themselves making the same kind of mistakes, engaging in overindulgence, time and time and time again, overindulging, right? And they struggle to rise out of that mud, to have that strength to ride that beast. They're bound now by that oppressive energy, right? The oppressive energy is that addiction energy, right? It is that pursuing of pleasure until it becomes controlling, where we can't exist without that object of pleasure, without that engagement, without that routine. And these are now all consuming and detrimental, right? They bind us, they control our energy, and they take from us. It's that vampiric force. What we are seeing is we need to recognize this and have the strength to take that discipline, to cut ties and break this cycle and begin anew, right? And to take a leap out. Part of the problem that we're seeing with this oppressive energy is that we are in a place where we are able to fulfill our desires again and again and again and again. You know, and this is energy of movement. This is energy of getting out of these cycles. And part of that is moving with the flows of fortune, right? Breaking this habit, getting out of this stagnant place that you're in and moving on to something greater. Let's continue. Wow. We have the sun. We have the sun. The profound power of the sun. That 666, the most balanced and beautiful card in the deck. The most rewarding card, right? It's abundance. It's finding the middle way in achieving one's dreams. It's truly magical and rewarding energy. Absolutely beautiful and profound. And this is that energy that we're having showing up. That's where fortune is going. Fortune is leading us to this fulfillment, right? To that realization, the finding of your other half, the coming together in harmony, right? The realization of the way, seeing the end, ionic life, recognizing it and pursuing after it, moving with the flow. Wow. Wow. Interesting. Okay, on one hand, we have the worry. So while this sun is coming in and there's this grand transition coming in, there is still growth in order to materialize the fullness of the sun. And part of that is expanding beyond the limitations of the four. This is all about taking responsibility and doing what is necessary to grow. When we see the five here, the worry, what we are seeing is that we are struggling to expand, to build upon that stability that we have manifested and to grow into true success. But we have the sun, which is that ultimate success, right? Realized. It's such beautiful, profound energy. So what this is telling us is we just need to be in that prudence, to have that strength. And that worry is going to transform into success. We must just continue to build in the direction we are building. Wow. And then on the other hand, we have the debauch. And this is connected to that Addis again, the 7 of cups, right? This is overindulgence again. Being bound in negative connections, overindulging in things that are not fulfilling, right? And what I'm getting a sense of is that this kind of energy here, this worry and this debauch, they're on the way out as that light of the sun comes in to shine, and it's going to transform this into that 6 of pleasure, and it's going to balance this out into that 6 of success. Right? The wheels are changing and things are moving in a proper direction. It's just about learning to balance and refine these things. Wow. All right. We're now going to flip and take a look at our full square. Okay. So, yeah, look here. We have to have that prudence to overcome the worry, to do what is necessary to transform that 5 into 6, and to have the audacity to go for it. Right? To build on this and to continue, to keep trying. You know, sometimes when success isn't apparent and things start to get hard, we start to worry. We start to think, oh, maybe it's not going to manifest. We're not going to make our dreams. We're not going to be a success. But this is saying, no. Throw yourself at this. Keep doing what you've been doing. Don't worry. This is going to transform. Let's look here. Yeah. If you can be that outgoing knight, that one who pursues wisdom, who has the strength and reason to adapt with change, the sun will be realized. The sun will be realized. There is a big thing, though, here. We must break that cycle of oppression, and we must overcome the debauchery. This is very much Addis energy, right? Addis is the one who pursues that mysticism, but can often fall into these pitfalls of indulgence, right? Drugs, sex, magic, that sort of thing. And what we're seeing here is that there needs to be another refinement through that light of the sun, through this adaptation, as we become that mature knight, right? We need to break the cycle of oppression, move out of this, stop fixating so much on these repeating things that are binding us, and make new healthy patterns. And we need to break out of this debaucherous mode of self-fulfillment and be in that well-balanced pleasure where we are living in that reciprocal exchange of flowing energy, you know, rather than an overindulgent energy of self-satisfaction, which can bring harm to others and to yourself, right? So the energy here is one of maturing, right? Addis needs to become that knight, needs to take responsibility, needs to break these bad habits, adapt to change, move and be that one who pursues knowledge, and then the sun will come. The sun is here. Wow. This is beautiful energy, guys. You know, there is some negativity, but this is negativity that is coming out. We just need to be that strong person to stop being this one, right? Like, sometimes this Addis energy is really beautiful and profound and can lead to a lot of development, but only if you can grow beyond it and become that knight of the cups or the knight of discs, right? Only, or another knight. You can't stay in that energy because that energy needs to transform. It's about recognizing that you're in a bad place, right? That you are in need of transformation and growth. That is the strength of that card. So that's the big energy here, and learning to adapt to the change. But the sun is coming. Just have the audacity to keep trying and pursue wisdom. That's the message. It resonated with me. I hope it resonated with you. And I hope I'll see you all over at Dr. Ammon's live stream. We'll do one last sortes and then call it an evening. So the final message this evening is Muses. What is the message from Garcia Lorca? Inspire us. These clothes that are my babies I wash here in the stream to teach the stream a lesson, how crystal like to gleam. Wow, these clothes that are my babies I wash here in the stream to teach the stream a lesson, how crystal like to gleam. Even the stream needs to be reminded of the new generations and the new birth. And we all participate in these cycles of transformation and engagement. Beautiful. All right, everyone. Peace and love. Thank you so much for joining me. And I hope I will see you again tomorrow for more live tarot and sortes. Take care, everyone. Good night.